Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Google Sheets Activities for All Subjects. This session is part of a series of free webinars offered every week or two by the Stark Portage Area Computer Consortium, or SPARC for short. SPARC is an information technology center up here in Northeast Ohio where we support about 30 school districts. However, this webinar is open to everyone, and we'd like to welcome all the people who have joined us live today, or if you're watching this recording in the future. My name is Eric Curts, and I will be your presenter today. I'm a technology integration specialist here at SPARC. I also run the website controlaltachieve.com, and feel free to connect with me there or through Twitter at Eric Curts. All of the resources for this session today can be found at tiny.cc/spark243. If you head over to that site, that is where the live video is right now. That will be the recorded video in the future. Below where the video is, you'll find all of the session resources, including a slideshow, blog post, templates, and so forth that we'll be working through. So as we go through the session today, please feel free to follow along by clicking on the links down below as we move through each of these different resources. Below that, you will see a live session chat document. This is a Google document that is editable, so please feel free to put questions in there or comments. If you've got great suggestions, I'd love for you to please share those in there. I'll do my best to keep an eye on the chat doc during the session and see if you have any questions that I can address. Below there is a session evaluation form. When this is all done, please leave your feedback. Helps us to improve these webinars. And at the very bottom, you will see a link to a quiz. When the webinar is all over, go ahead and take that quiz to prove that you watched it, and it will generate a PDF certificate of attendance for 1 contact hour and send that to you to turn into your school. Fantastic. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. So today we're going to be talking about Google Sheets activities for all subject areas. So a little bit of an overview of what we're going to be taking a look at today. So first of all, fair warning, I love Google Sheets, okay? Absolutely love spreadsheets, think they're fantastic. So many great things you can do with them. What we're going to be looking at, though, today isn't really, it's not really going to be a step-by-step how do you use Google Sheets as far as what buttons do you click and how do you, insert rows and columns and things like that. This is going to be more of a practical application about what you can do with them in your content areas. And I'm hoping to show that it's not just for math. Google Sheets, a lot of times we think, oh, it's a spreadsheet, so it's for, analyzing data, which yes, we will talk about analyzing data. That definitely fits in there. But we can do a whole lot more with Google Sheets than just that. Now, if you've never, ever used Google Sheets before, that's okay, because you really don't have to have any prerequisite knowledge. All of these activities we're going to be looking at, you can probably jump right into and use right away. If you do, though, want some basic training on how to use Sheets, I will let you know on our tech integration site, if you go to the recorded trainings, there are some that my colleague Anthony did in the past that are more geared toward that. So if you do want to check out that in the future under recorded trainings, let's see, there we go. Spreadsheets 102, 101 and 102. These are some webinars Anthony did where he really just went into some of the basics of how spreadsheets work. And so that would definitely be a good resource for you. Today, though, we're going to be looking at 5 different activities. So sort of a smorgasbord of activities. Try to squeeze all 5 of those into the hour that we have together. Hopefully, some of these activities will be something you can turn around and use with your students. If not you, perhaps you know a staff member at your school that you can share some of these activities with. That'd be fantastic. As I said, you really don't have to have any special prerequisites for this as long as you have a Google account. Doesn't matter if it's a school or a personal account, that's fine. And access to Google Sheets. As I said, this is an introductory session. So if your idea of Google Sheets is this picture over here on the side, you're perfectly fine. Again, you don't need to know anything special about it. You'll learn as we go through these different activities. All right, well, let's get going. And again, just as a final reminder, tiny.cc/spark243 is where you can always go back to anytime you need to get to these resources for this session. Well, let's dive in. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is using Google Sheets for random generator activities. Okay, so what am I talking about when I say that? Well, first of all, um, one of the neat things about Google Sheets is it does have a random function built into it. Now, if this is kind of scary here with the formula, don't worry about that. I'm just throwing that there to show you that it exists. There is a formula called rand between, which basically allows you to tell the sheet to pick a number anywhere from a low to a high. You set the parameters and it picks a random number. Well, I say, okay, Eric, so how could that be useful? Well, the fun thing about that is that means you can use Google Sheets to randomize all kinds of stuff. For example, you could create random writing prompts where Google Sheets randomly picks a number, and then based on that number, it grabs a word out of that row in the spreadsheet and mashes it up with another random word to create writing prompts or random math problems, or I don't know if you've got, vocab terms or people that the students are studying, randomly grabbing that information. Now, for our example, just to show you how this could work, I'm going to be showing you two of them, and they're both writing prompt oriented. One of them is standard writing prompts, and the next one is emoji writing prompts. So a little bit of a twist on that. So if you would like to try this out, either look below the video and you'll see the first link here where it says random writing prompt generator with Google Sheets. That'll get you there. Or if you use this link here, controlaltachieve.com/random prompts, that will get you there as well. And that's where we're going to see our first example today of how Sheets can be used in a classroom. So let's go ahead and give a click on that and head on out to that site. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here so you guys can see this a little bit better. All right, this is the blog that I run, Control Alt Achieve, and this is where I throw all of my resources. So please feel free to take a look at that site and dig through there. Lots of neat, fun stuff there. For our first example, though, we're talking about using the random feature in Google Sheets to create writing prompts. So what I did was I went ahead and pulled together 2,000 common adjectives and 1,000 common nouns. And I put them in a spreadsheet. And then I used the random, the rand between function to pull an adjective and a noun randomly and put them together to create writing prompts. Now, you can take a look at the spreadsheet and kind of see how I did it and then modify it any way you would like. You can take this and adjust it to fit your needs in your classroom. If you scroll down just a little bit to the spot where it says get your own copy, you will see there's a link there that says Google Sheets link. Just give a click on that link to get your copy of the random writing prompt generator. It'll ask if you want to make a copy, just say make a copy and you will get your own. And once that comes up, I'm going to zoom in a little bit on that too. I'll probably be doing a little bit of zooming here today so that we can see things a little bit better. There we go. And so as I zoom in, what you'll see is the way this works is this is a Google spreadsheet. And at the bottom, you'll see there's three tabs. There's a prompts tab, an adjectives tab, and a nouns tab. So the adjectives tab is where I filled in the 2,000 adjectives. The nouns tab is where I put the 1,000 nouns. And I tried really, really hard to pull out any words that might be inappropriate. So I hope I did a good job. If anybody ever comes across something that wasn't appropriate, please do send me an email. Let me know, and I'll go back and modify the original template. But I think these are all fair game. Again, you could come in here and you can change these. So if there's words you want to remove, you can simply come in here, right click on the row and just say delete row to delete a word. Or if you want to double click in there and change the words, you can go in and put any words in here you want perfectly fine. So you can customize this for your classroom. Now, the way it works is basically randomly. And if you look, you'll see for those who care about what's going on behind the scenes, there is that formula rand between. And it's basically what it's doing is whoops, sorry about that. Hit escape there. What it's doing is it's randomly grabbing an adjective and a noun and putting them together. So the idea behind this activity is the student would open up the random writing prompt generator and it would give them 20 adjective noun combinations. Now, some of them aren't going to make any sense at all, but who knows? Something in there might kind of strike a chord with them. And the idea is they could use these to write a poem or write a story, or maybe you've got a journal activity where each day you want them to write a paragraph or so in their journal. Well, this could be the stimulus for that. So if they take a look, they may say, oh, what do we have here that looks interesting on this one? We've got a microscopic war. Hey, that sounds kind of cool. We've got a warped crow. We've got a realistic shirt. I like that one. Apathetic grandmother. Very good. Now, if they decide that they want more random words, all they have to do is just refresh the browser page and it will re-randomize them. Give it a second here and it should settle in on the new ones. There we go. And now we've got runny bread. Oh my. And we've got exhilarated cake. Interesting. Unusual farmer. That might be a neat one. And so the point is, I would encourage the kids just to go through and write down some that catch their attention, refresh the page a few times until they got a bunch of neat ideas, and then use those for a fun poem or a story or a journal writing prompt entry for that day. Okay, so that's one possibility of what you could do with randomization. Let's go ahead and try another one. All right, so I'm going to head back over to the slideshow. And instead of just writing prompts, the next one we're going to look at is random emojis. So kids love emojis. They can be a lot of fun. It's also great because emojis can extend to all different grade levels. Even younger students who don't know as many words yet, they can recognize pictures, and it can be a real fun thing for students to interpret emojis. And so if you go to the next link down, which is Emoji Writing Prompt Generator with Google Sheets, or go to controlaltachieve.com/random emojis. Either link is fine. It'll get you there. That'll take you back out to my Control Alt Achieve site and will take you to that blog post. Now for this one, pretty much the same idea. Scroll on down and you'll find a link to the template. Just go ahead and click on that Google Sheets link, and that will make a copy of the random emoji generator. Not a lot different than the other one, same general idea. What I did was I created a tab called Data, and that Data tab basically just has all the emojis in it. Okay, these are just all the different emojis that Google Sheets supports. Now, I'm going to pause for 1 second here to do a quick clarification. Emojis do not always look the same on every device. Okay, emojis depend upon the computer or the tablet or the phone to render them. So if I'm using Windows 10 right now. So what you're seeing on the screen, this is how Windows 10 shows these emojis. If you're doing this and you're on a Mac, it's going to look different. Or if you're on a Chromebook, it's going to look different. The only thing you may really run into an issue here is if you've got a really old computer, like let's say it's like a Windows 7 computer, that Windows 7 didn't really understand emojis. So you're probably this probably won't work on a real old computer. If you get emojis, they'll be black and white, and most of them will just be gone. They'll just be blanks or squares. But anything modern, any modern computer, I think Windows 8.1 and above, modern Macs, any Chromebook, Android, iOS, all of that, this should work fine. So again, I have a data tab with all the emojis. And again, if there's an emoji in there you don't want, just come in, give a click on the row and say delete row, and you can take it out of there. That's perfectly fine. So what happens is, well, if you go to these different screens, you will see I've got 2 emojis, 3 emojis, 4 emojis, and 5 emojis. And the idea is these are randomly pulled from the data tab. It's again the same thing. If I come here, you'll see it. There it is, rand between, that same formula, or the same function being used. And it's basically just randomly grabbing a number, finding the emoji from that row, and throwing it in. The idea, again, is this could be a great way to inspire students to write a story. Now, if they're like, well, that one didn't quite excite me too much, no problem. Just either refresh the screen, or as it says here, press Control and R, that recalculates. And they could do that each time until they get something that they're like, oh, that was really neat. You know, who knows which one might, be exciting for them. But as they keep doing this, eventually they may get to one that they're like, that's awesome. I think I'll go ahead and write a story or a poem or a journal entry based off of that. So Google Sheets can be used for randomized activities. Feel free to use either of these exactly as they are or change them up. Just make a copy and go in and edit them as you would like to have the information in there that is best for your kids. All right, let's keep on moving. So that was our first one we wanted to take a look at. Second in our list, second use of Google Sheets in schools is for educational games. All right, so here's the idea. Google Sheets can be used to make interactive educational games. Now, there's a lot of ways you can do this. We're not going to look at every example. We're going to look at two main examples here. The first one, I think, is probably one of the easiest things you can do, and I absolutely recommend this, and that is using something called Flippity. Now, you may already know about Flippity. If not, you're going to be excited. This is going to be great for you. Flippity, it's not new. It's been around for a while. Flippity is a website that takes data from Google Sheets and it creates games from it. You can do flashcards. You can do a Jeopardy game. You can do spelling words. You can do Hangman. You can do a mix and match. You can do Mad Libs. All of these different things. It takes data from a Google Sheet and then it generates this interactive game for you. Now, what's a little bit different is that Flippity now can be accessed as a Google Sheets add-on. You don't have to go to the Flippity website anymore. You can just stay right inside of your Google Sheet and use the add-on for Flippity to generate these. So what I want to do is show you how that works. So let me grab a spreadsheet and pull that over here. So here's just a regular old spreadsheet, nothing fancy about it, just a regular blank spreadsheet. And again, you can create one of these. Just go to your drive and click New Google Sheet. And boom, there you go. You've got a blank spreadsheet. So no problem at all. Once you have that blank spreadsheet open, what you want to do is go up to the add-ons menu up here in the top. Now, I've already got Flippity installed, but if you don't, which you very well may not, the add-ons menu is where you can go to add third-party tools that aren't normally part of Google Sheets. So these are things other people have developed to give you extra features you don't normally have in Google Sheets. So you head up to add-ons, and from that drop-down menu, you would start by going to Get Add-ons, which is at the bottom of the list. And this will give you a list of all of the different add-ons you can install. And there's, oh my gosh, I've lost count, probably over 200 easily. You've got things like Flubaroo for grading quizzes and things like Autocrat for mail merge. Just so many wonderful add-ons in here. Well, what you would want to do is find Flippity. Now, if you want, I've got a link directly to it. If you go here, this link, Flippity add-on, that will take you straight to it without having to search. But if you need to, just come here and type in Flippity. It'd probably be faster than scrolling. And there it is. There's Flippity. Give a click on it. And you'll have a button that says Add. Mine says Manage because I've already got it installed. But let me go back and show you what it would look like if you didn't. So if I pick one that I don't have installed, like this one, oh, I'm sorry, it says free. Sorry about that. It says plus free. So yours will say plus free if you don't have Flippity installed. Since I've already got it installed, it says manage for me instead, but yours would say plus free. You just give a click on it. That installs the add-on, and it's a one-time thing. You don't have to ever install it again. Once you install it once, it's attached to your Google account. So once you install it, anytime you open up a new Google spreadsheet, simply go to add-ons and Flippity will just be waiting right there for you in the add-ons menu. All right. So how does Flippity work? Well, what you do is from any blank Google Sheet, again, just go to Google Drive. And again, I don't mean to assume that everybody knows how that works. But again, if you just go to Google Drive, click the New button and choose New Google Sheets. That'll create a nice blank Google Sheet for you. And from that Google Sheet, you go to Add-ons, go to Flippity, and choose Pick a Template. At that point, the add-on is going to open up and show you, I think there's 10 different templates that are available. You've got flashcards, a Jeopardy quiz show, Hangman, spelling words, random name picker, mix and match, badge tracker, progress indicator, Mad Libs, and certificate quiz. Now, if you're not sure what some of these are, just click the demo and it will show you that. So like for flashcards, you say, well, what does that mean? Okay, well, click demo. It'll open up an example and show you what it's talking about here. So in the case of flashcards, it's as you would expect, it's going to have cards that have text on the front. And if I hit the flip button, there's the back. And so I can flip back and forth between the two of them. And as I move through the flashcards, then I'll get my second flashcard and my third flashcard. Now, one of the cool things about this is it doesn't have to be just text. Like here's an image on the front. And I think there's another one here that even has a video. Let me see if it's, yes, this one here. So for the element with atomic number 3, there's actually a video you can play. So you can embed YouTube videos in there as well. So these can be just regular flashcards. There's also a a text-to-speech option. If I uncheck the muted speaker here, it actually would read these to me so I could actually hear the text read. And there's other ways to play it. So you can do a list where you see all of the answers. There's a practice. There's a matching where you click on them to match them together. There's a word cloud, lots of other ways to play these. So that gives you a demo of what that looks like. Same thing with like the game show. That's like a Jeopardy game. So how do you actually use one of these? Well, once you find one of the templates that you like, instead of hitting demo, instead you just click use instead. So if I give a click on use, I'll do the quiz show as an example here. If I say, oh, I want to make a Jeopardy game quiz show, click on use, and what it's going to do is it's going to take that blank sheet that you had and it's going to fill it in with a template, and then it's going to give you a link to the live game. Now, I know that's a crazy ugly link there. We'll talk about that again in a second. We'll pull that link back up. For right now, we'll just close out of here. And here you go. They have preloaded all of this for you. Obviously, you need to go through and change the stuff. So instead of world capitals and the Simpsons and movies and so forth, come in here and just type in whatever topic you want category one to be. Just double click, change world capitals into yours. So if it was, Google trivia, that's great. I could have that be my category. And then below there, you put in the question and the answer, the question and the answer, the question and the answer as you work your way down through that. If you want to put things in that aren't just regular text, you can see an example like over here. They've got who is, and they've got a YouTube link. And you can tell the way they formatted it, basically, as long as you have the link to the YouTube video or to the picture, whatever it is you're linking out to, they put these little brackets around, 2 brackets on this side and 2 brackets on that side. As long as you do that, it'll understand that that's a video or an image to actually display rather than the text. So that gives you a little example of how that could look. Now, so you can go through and fill this out. If you don't want as many categories, not a problem. You can get rid of a category. So you can come in here, like for example, if I didn't want 6 categories, I could go to column G, just right click on that, delete that column, and now I've just got 5 categories, and that's fine. You don't have to use all of the categories. You can delete out the ones you don't want. So let's pretend I've actually filled all this out. I've got my Jeopardy game ready to go. At this point, how do we play it again? Well, go back up to add-ons, go back down to Flippity, and right there is going to be the link that you need, the URL, the link that you need. Give that a click, and it brings you right back to that same page we were just at a moment ago where it says, oh, here's your link to the game. Now, again, that's a really ugly link, okay? So either you need to come in here, copy this link, and then push it out to your students through Google Classroom or put it on your website or somehow distribute it to them. Or if you really, really need them to type it in, there is an option to click Show Short URL, and it gives you a shortened version. So they can just type in the goo.gl URL instead. Well, let's go ahead and click on it and see the game. And here it comes up. Give it a second to load. And it's still loading. Okay, well, that's what happens when you do things live. It's still loading. Okay, for some reason, it is not loading as quickly as it normally would. It does. It actually works really well. So I'm not sure why that's not loading real quick here today. Let me close out of that and I'll try that again. Well, don't blame Flippity. We probably just have some network issues on our end here. But if I go ahead and I will show you what it looks like with their demo. I'll just pull up the demo of it and show you what it looks like. I know we saw the flashcards, but I want to show you the Jeopardy one so you can actually see what it looks like. So let me come back here to Flippity and I'll just show you their demo of the Jeopardy one. And here we go, the quiz show. Let me hit the demo and let's see. Oh, okay, that one loaded fine. So I may have made it mad when I deleted the column. I don't think so. I don't think that should have made it mad, but if it did, let's see. There are, if I go to Flippity and I go to help, I can probably shoot out to the, let me shoot out to the Flippity site. Let me go to the Flippity site here. And let's see if I There's probably, yes, if I go to the Flippity site and I go to the quiz show, there's the instructions. I wonder if I made it mad when I deleted one of those columns. It says make a copy, edit all. Oh, do not delete. There you go. See, there you go, Eric. Do not delete any cell with a blue background. Don't delete rows and columns. Okay, I made it mad. So apparently, we probably could have just deleted what was inside of it, but not the actual row or column. So be careful of that. That apparently will break your spreadsheet in this case. So don't go deleting any of the rows or columns. If you need to, though, I think we can delete what's inside of them. Here, I will undo and see if I make it happy again now. So let's try that again now, Eric. Without that, let's go in and see if it's, oh, now see, there it is. Now it works fine. I wonder if I just deleted the text from it instead of what if I leave that? Let me see what happens if I do that. Hey, poke a stick at it, guys. That's what it's always about. Let's see. What if I just delete what's inside of it? Nope. Don't do that. That makes it mad. So looks to me like you do want to leave all of those categories in there. All right. Now, as we start to wrap up this with Flippity, a couple of quick things. Keep in mind, this is not something that necessarily you as a teacher would have to be doing. This is a great activity for your students. I know sometimes we think, oh, I'm a teacher. I should use this to make, flashcards. I should use this to make a Jeopardy game for the kids. I should use this to make a hangman game. Oh, please do. That's fantastic. But guys, this is great for students. What a great way for them to show their understanding, to show their learning. Have them create a Jeopardy game. So maybe you've got a project and you say, okay, guys, you need to demonstrate your learning on, you pick the topic, whatever it is, the American Revolution, whatever it is you're teaching in class. And you say, okay, it's open-ended. You can show your understanding by writing a report, making a video, doing a slideshow, creating, a story, or how about this? You can make a Jeopardy game. And so the student could simply use Google Sheets. They could install the Flippity add-on, and then they could build their own Jeopardy game. Because think about that. That's going to be 6 categories by 5. That's 30 different things they're going to have to think through, from easy to more challenging. And that's a lot of work for the student to do. What a fantastic way for the student to demonstrate their understanding. And then one of the greatest things about this is when they make that product, it's not something that you're just going to grade, give back to the student, and that's it. Story's done. No, because they've created this. Now you've got a learning tool that the other students can benefit from, because a student made this Jeopardy game or they made these flashcards. Now all the other students can benefit this year and next year and the next year. Basically, the students are now becoming creators and contributing to the class. They're giving back into the class. So rather than just a report that you grade, give back to them, and it probably goes in the trash can, let's have our kids creating things that then the other students can use as well. So please definitely do this yourself, but also I would encourage you to have your students do this as well. All right, very good. Well, let's keep on moving here. We'll close out of all of that and we'll get back over to here. Before we go to number 3, the other educational game I want to mention real quick, just for fun, before we move off of educational games, is battle sheets. And this is something I created years ago just to kind of have some fun in Google Sheets. If you do have math students and you want to teach them about coordinates and some critical thinking, or if you're just working on tech skills, you want kids to work on typing in and moving around in cells, this can be a fun game for them to do that. It's at controlaltachieve.com/battle sheets, or just go down to the battle sheets link here. And we won't go into any great depth on this at all. Just know that it's there. Basically, it is a Google spreadsheet. Right here is the template link. You can come here and click on that and make your own copy of it when that opens up. Looks like this is one. This is one I made a long time ago, so it doesn't auto make a copy. You actually have to click File and make a copy. This was quite a while back when I made that. I probably should update that so that it automatically makes the copy for you. But it's a view-only template. If you click on File and then Make a Copy, it'll make a copy for you. And at that point, basically, 2 students could play Battleship with battle sheets. And the idea is there's a player 1 tab and there's a player 2 tab. And what the students would do is they would pick which player they're going to be, and then they type in letters for their aircraft carrier, their battleship, their cruiser, their destroyer, and their frigate. They put those in these cells here. They place their ships there, and then they drop their bombs by putting X's down here. So if I'll just show you real quick, if I put, for example, my aircraft carrier up here, oops, aircraft carrier, and we won't do any more than just one quick example. If I do that, and if player 2 decides to drop his bomb, if he puts an X here, it says he missed. But if he puts an X here, it says he got a hit. And so it tells him if he's hitting you or not, and then you can see where bombs have been dropped on you up here. And so you go back and forth, and it tells you whose turn it is to play. And basically, it's using conditional formatting to be able to color these in. So anyway, it's a fun one if you want to use that to teach a little bit about coordinates and things like that in math. Well, let's keep on moving. I do see a question. Can we embed the Flippity sheet on a website? So with Flippity, that is a good question. I am not sure if Flippity does embed or not after you have created it. If I come back over here, let's see. Let me open that Flippity sheet back up. Flippity example. So let's open that back up. If I come here and let's open up Flippity again. If I come here and I go to Flippity and I get the URL and I go out to the Flippity link. The question is, could this get embedded? I don't know. That is a good question. So I'm sorry, I don't have the. I was looking to see if there was something on here that clearly said that it could be embedded. I don't see anything. By the way this works, when you click on one of the links and it gives you the question and then gives you the answer. If a team got it right, all you do is click on that team in the checkbox here for them, and then it gives them the points for it. And so it keeps track of which ones have been used, and it gives the points to the teams. If you don't need as many teams, you can use the minus button or the plus button to add or remove teams if you don't need as many teams. So sorry about that. I don't know if that could then get embedded, but the link here is what people would need to get to the playable version of it. All right, let's move on to our next example. So next up, third example for using Google Sheets in your school is pixel art. So what is pixel art? Well, basically pixel art is drawing images on a small grid with a limited number of colors. So when I grew up back in the 70s and 80s, I had my Atari 2600 and all sorts of old game systems. And so I was very familiar with pixels. Pixels were something that we were used to seeing because we didn't have very good resolution of our games back then. Now everything is so realistic. It looks like real life. But back then things were kind of pixelated. And of course now we've got a bit of a retro resurgence of that. So people are kind of excited about pixels again. But the idea is you can use Google Sheets to create pixel art by basically changing the size of the rows and columns so that they're more square, and then just using the paint can tool to fill in the different cells with colors. So here's an example where this would be like landforms in a social studies class, where we got a canal and a canyon, mountains, and a mesa as an example, where the students could use pixel art to create those. Now, this could be used for all kinds of things. It could just be art, just for being creative. That's fantastic. But it could be mapping, it could be fractions, it could be area, it could be creating characters from a story. So pretty much anything a student could draw could be tied in to your class, including the Nyan cat over here that I drew. Now, to try this out, head over to control-alt-achieve.com/pixelart, or simply scroll down below the video, and right there it is. There's the pixel art link that you need to get out to this blog post. And on this blog post, what you're going to see is I have a link to a 20 color pixel art template. So right here, you can click this link and it will create that copy for you. Let me go ahead and do that real quick. Give that a moment to make its copy. Very good. And when this comes up, what you're going to get is a tab with directions. So this kind of talks you through how to do everything. And then there's several other tabs next to there that you can do the drawing on. Now, here's the idea behind this. Remember what I told you, that you can, if you want, in a Google Sheet, make your columns and your rows square, which I already did. Basically, you just highlight the columns, and you can go in to format the column width, which I'm probably going to forget where that's at now. Here, I'll right click, right click, and resize columns. So I could resize the columns. I already did that. So this is already pretty much square. And you certainly could come in here and click in a cell and go up to the paint can button, and you could pick a color to fill it in with. Well, here's the thing. That is great. Nothing wrong with that at all. You absolutely could use just the paint can button and go in and keep filling in different colors. But that could take a lot of time. So what I did was I used something called conditional formatting. Okay. Now, you don't have to know a whole lot about it. Just need to know that it exists, because if you don't like the colors I picked, you can change them. Okay. Here's the way conditional formatting works. What you do, if you go up to Format, and go down to conditional formatting. You can kind of peek behind the curtain and see what I've done in the background here. So go up to Format, then go down to conditional formatting. And what you're going to see is I've created all of these different rules. And so, for example, let's say we'll just use the one for red here. If you click on the one for red, it says text is exactly E. Basically, this is conditional formatting. Conditional formatting says, anything in the whole spreadsheet from cell A1 all the way down to BH30, so all the way over and all the way down, anything in the whole entire sheet. If the text inside of the cell is E, if somebody types the letter E in the cell, do the following. Make the text red and make the box red. So basically, if I come here and I type the letter E, so I'm typing the letter E, you can see there's an E there. As soon as I press enter and move off of that cell, boom, it turns red, because conditional formatting goes, hey, he put an E in there. Let's make the text red and the background red. So that's what I did. And so if you look across the top from A through S, these letters A through S, these are the colors that correspond. This is your palette up here. So basically you type in lowercase letters. You don't need to do the uppercase letters, just do lowercase. That's easier than having to hold shift down. So just the lowercase letters. And so if I come here and say, oh, I want to put in, an L for green, type in L's, those turn green, or it looks like M makes the blue, and looks like A makes black. Now, if you want something to be white, obviously just leave it blank. You don't have to actually type anything in for white. And that's how you get all 20 of those colors. Now, if you guys want to change the colors, no problem. Again, just go Format, Conditional Formatting, pick the color you don't like. If you just say, I don't like the brown you chose, that's pretty ugly. No problem. Click on it. Just pick your own. Come down here and say, when J is typed, make the text whatever color you want and make the fill color whatever you want. I would make a match, obviously, but pick the new color that you want and then click done, and you can reset those. So basically with this template, if you don't want to change anything, that's fine. You can leave it exactly as it is. Just let kids draw. Let them go in and draw and make whatever they want. Now, when they're all done drawing, you can do things like you can delete extra rows and columns if you want. That's no problem. You can also turn off the grid lines. The directions tell you you can click View and uncheck grid lines. So this is not a very exciting drawing here. Let me copy and paste something that I've already drawn from another one here. Let me find one that might be a little bit more interesting than that. I'll grab my, oh, actually, I think I've got one with Mario that I drew. Let me see. Here he is. Let me copy Mario and I'll bring him over. So here he is. All right, there you go. So these are all just the letters to correspond to the colors to create Mario there. So when I'm all done, I could even delete the key up here if I don't want it anymore. That's fine. I can come up here and I can right click on that row, and I can even delete that row if I don't want the key. It doesn't hurt. You can get rid of it. It's just there to help you remember what the colors are. But then I can even click View, and I can uncheck grid lines, and it'll even take all the grid lines away. And then, of course, I can go down and download that as a PDF, or I could do a screen capture of it if I want to grab that image. Now, if you want to get a little bit fancier than just drawing pictures, which is fantastic, drawing pictures, that's great in itself. I've also thrown in a couple of tabs that are more specifically toward math. 3 of them for fractions, an 8 by 8, a 10 by 10, and a 12 by 12 grid, and then 1 for area. And the idea on these is the students would draw within a constrained shape. So again, I'm going to copy paste just to save a little bit of time here. I've already typed this up ahead of time. There we go. So here is a smiley face, and I typed in the different letters to make those colors. The idea is the students would draw within this 10 by 10 grid in this case, and then over here they would count up how much of each color they used. So I could say, okay, the blues, it looks like I've got 8 different squares for the eyes, and we've got 6 blacks, and we've got 4 reds. Yep, did 4 of the red. Let me see the yellow. I counted this earlier. There were 70 of the yellows. And is there anything else I used in here? I think that's about it. That should be all of them that I used. Oh, no, whites. Well, count the whites. Yeah, 12 white squares. And then after they count up, that's how many hundredths those colors represent. Over here now, they would be required to simplify that. So 6 out of 100, well, that could reduce down to 3/50ths. Or 4 out of 100, well, that could be 1/25. 70 out of 100, 7/10. You get the idea. And so the students could come down now and work on simplifying fractions after they have created those. All right. Same thing with area. They could create something and then count up the square units. So pixel art can be a fun activity for creativity or for making things that tie into your subject area, or if you really want to do some math with them, great way for fractions and area. All right. Let's keep on going here. Our 4th way to use Google Sheets in your classroom. Now, I don't have a good name for this one, so I'm calling it learning databases, which I apologize, sounds like the most boring thing in the world. If somebody has a better name for this, please let me know, because I've really wrestled with giving this a name that fits it, because it's really exciting. I really like this activity. I just don't know what to call it. So I've been calling it learning databases. So here's the idea. All right. Our students need to learn a lot of content. I mean, that's just the truth. Throughout the course of the year, there's going to be a time where you hit a unit or a chapter where they've got to learn a lot of stuff. Maybe they are reading a novel, and there's tons of characters in the novel. They got to keep track of all these characters. Maybe they're studying animals, Ohio animals or whatever in their science class. Or maybe it's a career class and they're exploring careers, or social studies, countries of the world, science, could be periodic table elements, for artists and their work, and math, properties of geometric shapes. You get the idea. There's going to be units throughout the year where your students have a lot of content to learn. Okay. Well, here's the idea. You can have them use Google Sheets to basically collect all that data while they're learning it. And then when it's all collected, they can then use sorting and filtering to explore it. Now, here's the idea. Basically, collecting all of the data together in the sheet is going to help them remember it, organize it, and and understand it. Now, that's all low-level blooms, but that's great. You got to start there. So when I'm going to show you an example, they collect all this data together. That helps them make sense out of it. Then when it's all collected, we can move on to higher level things by using sorting and filtering to explore that data and really kind of twist and turn it and make sense out of it, make predictions, draw conclusions, find connections. So let's explore what I mean by this. So for this one, we're going to head out to controlaltachieve.com/database, or again, just scroll down below the video and right there, have students build learning databases with Google Sheets. That's the link you need. So that'll shoot us out to the Control Alt Achieve site. And if you scroll on down, I talk through how all of this works. And for my example that I did here, I did a couple examples, but the one I'm going to show you here is the novel Wonder. This is a great book. If you haven't read it, absolutely recommend it. I read it to my boys a couple years ago, and now my middle son is reading it again as part of his 6th grade class. So he's getting it for a second time. Well, there's a lot of characters in the book Wonder. Okay, so here's the idea. What you would do is you would say, okay, guys, we're going to use a Google spreadsheet to keep track of the characters. Now, keep in mind, this could be individual. It could be just each student is doing their own spreadsheet, or it could be a group project. The whole class could be contributing to a single spreadsheet. That's fine too. But the point is, you would say, okay, we're going to set up the spreadsheet. And then what it's going to look like, here, let me open up a copy here for you. If you scroll down, and you guys can do the same, if you scroll down a little bit further, you'll see Wonder Character Database, and it says Google Sheet link. You can make a copy of that. It'll make more sense if I show it while I talk about it here. So basically, this is the spreadsheet, and you'll see each row is a different character from the book. So you got Augie Pullman, you got Jack Will, you got Justin, you got Amos. These are all the characters in the book. So at first, this is going to start out blank. It's just going to be a blank, spreadsheet. But the students, as they read, hey, I found a new character. Every time they come across a new character, they would type that new character into the spreadsheet. Now, that's what each row is going to be. What are the columns going to be? Well, I mean, it depends. You got to decide for this book, what are some good things to figure out? Okay, well, their name, maybe their age or grade, their gender. Since Augie's the main character, maybe is that character part of Augie's family? Because Augie deals with people treating him, in not so nice ways. Maybe one thing is the character nice to Augie? Is the character mean to Augie? Does the character change over the course of the novel? Now, this would be totally different if you picked a different novel. If you did Romeo and Juliet, do they live? Do they die? Are they a Capulet, a Montague? Are they something? I mean, you'd have different questions as you work through it. In this case, these were the ones that I chose just for this example. And so as they go through, they start filling this out. And some of the things they can't fill out right away. They have to read through the whole book before they fill it out. But by the time they're done with the novel, they have their own database of all of the characters from the novel. Now, that's great, again, just for, hey, now I know who's in the book. I've got it organized. Fantastic for low-level knowledge. Here's where we want to kind of take this up a notch. So after it's all filled in, now we're going to talk about sorting and filtering. So these are two things you can do in a spreadsheet. Sorting is when you go in and rearrange everything in the spreadsheet from low to high or high to low, okay? So for example, in this spreadsheet, I could arrange the characters by their age. So I've got all the young characters together and all the old characters together. If this was an animal spreadsheet for life science, I could sort them by their life expectancy. Or if it is a social studies spreadsheet on countries, I could sort by, their population or, whatever the thing might be I'm sorting on for that. Or if it's that career spreadsheet we talked about, I could sort by salary to see which jobs pay the most or pay the least. So the idea is to do sorting after you have the spreadsheet set up. What you probably want to do is you probably want to freeze the first row. I know I didn't mention that earlier, but here's the idea. If you don't freeze your first row here, it might get sorted with the rest of the data. So all you have to do is click View, Freeze One Row. And if you say View, Freeze One Row, it freezes this first row so it doesn't move with the rest of it. That could really help a lot. So now that I've got it frozen, what I could do is come in and say, okay, I want to sort by age. So if I come here to the age column and I click anywhere in the age column, how do I sort? Well, all you have to do is go up to Data and then choose Sort the Sheet by that column, A to Z for alphabetical or numerically low to high, or Z to A for reverse alphabetical or high to low. I'll just do alphabetically and boom. The whole spreadsheet now sorts. Here's my fifth graders. Here's my seventh grader. Here's the adults. Here's the dogs in the book. And there's the high schoolers in the book. It has sorted those alphabetically in this case. All right. So that would allow me to do one level of thinking here where now I can say, okay, let's answer questions by sorting the data from highest to lowest or lowest to highest. Another thing you can do, though, besides sorting is filtering. Now, what's the difference? Filtering is where you hide rows that don't match a criteria. So instead of putting things in order, you're temporarily removing things that don't match a criteria you're looking for. So for example, I could come in here and say, okay, let's talk about filtering. Start by clicking somewhere in the spreadsheet, and you want to go up to the Data menu again, but instead of sorting, we're not sorting this time, you're going to go down to Filter. The filter menu is right there. So here's Data. We did sorting earlier. Now go down to Filter. And when you do that, what it does is it puts these little drop downs at the top here where you can now go in and click on any one of these, and you can choose what to show and what not to show in the spreadsheet. So notice by default, it's showing all of these values. Well, what if I said, are there any characters in the book that are nice to Augie and also mean at the same time? They have conflicts. This character that sometimes they're nice, sometimes they're mean. Well, I could find this by going to the nice column and saying, don't show me blanks, don't show me question marks, don't show me no, just leave yes checked. When I hit OK, now these are all the people that are nice to Augie. Anybody that says no, they're not nice has been removed. Now I go to the mean column and I click there and I say, let's remove no. Is there anybody who is also yes for being mean to Augie? Hit OK. And now it has limited this down just to row 3, 6, 7, 8, and 9. These are characters that sometime during the book are nice and sometimes they're mean. Now that could be interesting because that could lead to some discussions about, well, what happened to those characters? Why did that occur? Or, oh, by the way, if you want to unfilter, you can come back up here and just select them all again. And if you select all, it'll put everybody back again. That's fine. Or you can just go to the data button and just turn off the filter and then turn it back on if you want. Another good example would be if I said, are there any adults in the story? So let's clear everybody but the adults. Are there any adults that are mean to Augie? And it turns out there's only one, which is Mrs. Albans, which could bring up a neat discussion because her son, Julian, is the one who's the meanest of all to Augie in the book. And so maybe that'd be a neat discussion. What impact do parents have on how children view other children? So the point is using sorting and using filtering. Once the data is all collected, it doesn't have to be just a database of information. Now we can answer higher level questions and really explore it. And if you go down through the rest of the blog post, you'll see there's other examples. I got an animal database where if you want to make a copy of that, you could go in and add to that and say, okay, let's pull up all of the mammals and find out what makes a mammal a mammal. So select just the ones that are mammals and see which characteristics end up being true about mammals. Or careers. Here's a career spreadsheet if you want to make a copy of that one. And then you could say, okay, of the careers that don't require a college degree, which ones pay the best? Or here's one on math, four-sided shapes. Go in and make a copy of this one. And then you can ask questions like, which four-sided shapes have the most restrictions, which have the least restrictions, and so forth. And again, this really can be applied to anything, countries of the world, elements of the periodic table, but it basically allows the student to collect the information and then after collecting all of that, to ask questions about it. All right. Excellent. Looking at the Q&A doc, somebody says, couldn't you use something like the character database spreadsheet with Flippity? Good question. I do not know about that. I'm not familiar with the character database spreadsheet with Flippity. So that's something I will be happy to take a look at, but I don't have a good answer for you on that. That's not something I'm familiar with. Instead of database, call it portfolio. Oh, I like that. That might be a better, database kind of turns people off sometimes. So that may be a good suggestion. All right. One last thing. We're to our final example for today. Number 5, analyzing data. Yeah, I said that Sheets isn't all about number crunching, but sometimes it is. Sometimes it's perfectly fine to analyze data. So for our 5th example of how to use Google Sheets in your classroom, basically the idea comes down to this. We can use Sheets to have students collect and analyze information that's relevant to their content area. So we're talking more numeric things at this point. Now, where can this data come from? Well, a lot of places. It could be real life measurements, and I would absolutely encourage you to do that. If there's any way the students can actually measure their heart rate or, the circumference of their head and the length of their arm or whatever it might be, if it's their data, I think that's really motivating for them to say, that's my data in there. Or Google Forms surveys. This is a great way to have your students survey other students in the school. And again, this means this doesn't have to be math. This could be any subject area. Do a survey that relates to a topic that you're covering in class, collect that data, and again, do it from other students in the school or an activity I used to do back when I taught math way long ago. we would create surveys and we would send them to different schools, because I worked in a suburban school. And so we would find an urban school and a rural school. And we would send those surveys to those schools, and we would take the survey ourselves. And then we'd have really interesting discussions about which questions do you think will look different for those schools versus ours. And it brought up a lot of neat discussions. You could also grab public data sets. There's a lot of great websites out there that provide country statistics and things like that. Or hey, you could collect live data with probes and sensors. There's a really neat app for the Android phone called the Science Journal app. If you've never seen that one before, it basically takes your phone and it uses all of the different sensors on it to collect real life data. You can collect light and sound and motion. And so you could have a student turn their phone on, start this up, and go run around the track, or take it up and down the stairs, or put it by the window to collect the change of the light. And the point is, all that data then can be fed. It basically saves it as a spreadsheet, which can be fed in. It can be saved right to Google Sheets. So here's the idea. Let me do a quick example for you. This is going to be a math example, but this could apply to any subject area, whether it's a survey you've done, whether it's, data you've collected from measurements, whatever it might be. For this one, I'm going to talk about pi, discovering pi with Google Sheets. So controlaltachieve.com/pi, or use the Discovering Pi with Sheets link below the video. And so what you have here is a activity I've done a long time ago and kind of converted it into a computer activity. And here's the idea. Pi is something we have to teach in math. Pi is, most of us know, it's 3.14. Basically, pi is how much bigger a circle is around than it is across. That's what pi is. It's about 3 times more around a circle than it is across a circle. Pi is that number. It's how many times bigger the circumference is than the diameter. Well, I could tell kids that. If I'm teaching math, I could just say, this is pi. Well, folks, that's not very interesting. It's much better to do inquiry learning, to have our students discover information themselves. As much as possible, I would encourage you, please don't just tell your students, this is the rule, this is the property, this is the formula, this is the connection. Give them the data, let them stare at it, let them scratch their head and let them see connections and go, oh, hey, I noticed something. And when they notice it, they're going to have way more ownership of the learning, because first of all, they're invested in it. But secondly, it's going to make sense. It's not just this thing Mr. Curts said, oh, pi is 3.14. Why? I don't know why. Now it's going to make sense because they see where it came from. So here's the idea for this one. Basically what you do, and again, here's a Google Sheet. If you want to make a copy of it, just come in here. And again, you certainly don't have to. I'm going to, just so I can show you how this works. I'll click on the Google Sheet link, make a copy of this. For this activity, basically what you do is you bring in a whole bunch of circular objects, like lots and lots and lots of things, frisbees and plates. And I've done this many times. I have a bag, and my wife always goes, Eric, are you doing that activity again? Because suddenly all the lids disappear at home. And I say, yeah, honey, sorry. I'm doing that activity again. But basically, you bring in all these circular objects and tape measurers, and you give every student a different circular object and a tape measurer, and you ask them to measure the circumference, the distance around, and you ask them to measure the diameter, the distance across. And I've already done this, so I've got a whole bunch of sample data. I'm just going to go ahead and grab here real quick to paste in to save us some time. These are real measurements. These are actual measurements. Let me go ahead and paste these in here. Ooh, there we go. And actually, I'm going to temporarily take the measure. I'm going to take the calculations out and show you how you don't even have to have that in there at the beginning. So basically, here you have all of their measurements. So the students would go in and they would type in their circumference and their diameter, and their circumference and their diameter. So they're measuring around the circle and across the circle. And I would just stop right there. I would just let the students put all that data in. And maybe I would start this off by, I don't know, maybe I'm saying, hey guys, I need to, I need to cut down a tree in my yard, and the tree company wants to know how big it is. Well, I can measure how far around it is. Is there any way I can figure out how thick it is so I can tell them, or something like that, or I've got a circular pond and I want to make a bridge across it. I can walk around it, but I can't walk across it. How big does the bridge need to be? It could be something like that. The point is, the kids are going to collect all this data. It just looks like crazy data. Now you let them step back and say, okay, guys, does anybody see any kind of pattern here at all? Does it appear that the distance around is in any way connected to the distance across? Now, if they look at it long enough, they'll start to probably notice that, yeah, 32 and 10, 64 and 20, 130. They'll start, yeah, it looks, Mr. Kurtz, it looks like it's about triple the size around. It's about 3 times more than across. And you may have to kind of lead them into that, but I think they would see that. Then you could say, well, how can we know for sure? And then we can have a discussion. Well, if we divide across, or if we divide the circumference by the diameter, we can see exactly how much bigger it is. So basically, again, I deleted the formulas. You could leave them in if you wanted, but I would probably come in here and type in the formula. So here's your one spreadsheet formula for today. If I come here and press equals, that puts me into formula mode. And now I can say equals this cell divided by the little slash key, this cell, press enter. And there it is. There's the formula. B2 divided by C2. Okay. And then I don't have to do that a million times. I can just drag that down, just grab the little handle and drag that formula down, and it will keep dividing all of these for me all the way down. And now we can say, you know what, guys, you're right. They're all right around 3. Now, why are they all the same? Well, we make mistakes. We don't measure perfectly. So then you say, hey, guys, is there any way we could kind of mush all that together and figure out probably what the real ratio is? They can say, yeah, we can average them. Great. So let's come over here and here's your second formula, equals average. Just if you start typing in average, it'll even pop up. Equals average. And I just need to say what to average. Well, all I have to do is click and drag down all of these to highlight all of them. And then close out my parentheses, press enter. And let's see, did it do it? Yes, it did. It averaged from D2, this cell, all the way down to D37, this cell, or I went further than I needed to, but I went down a little further, that's fine. And there's the average. And you know what you're going to find? No matter how much mistakes kids may make, if you get enough kids in the classroom measuring things, it's going to get spooky close to pi. And so over here, I've got another tab that even says, pi is actually this, well, close to that. You got this. Look how close you were to it. Now, it doesn't have to be just that. You could also do, a chart. You could come in here and say, hey, let's grab the circumference and diameter. Let's highlight all of that data. And instead of even doing calculations, just highlight the data and say, I want to insert a chart. You can make a graph out of this. Maybe that will show them what they need. So highlight the data, go to insert chart. And if you go to the chart types, you will see there's a lot of different chart types available. We could do a line chart. We could do an area chart. We could do a column chart. We could do a bar chart. We could do a pie chart or a scatter chart. I'd probably do a scatter chart for this one, but you've got all the normal charts: line, area, column, bar, pie. There's even more beyond that, but I would do a scatter chart, insert that. And now I can even make that be its own tab so it's easier to see. We'll say move to its own sheet. And I can say, guys, does it seem like there's a connection? The bigger the circumference, how does that relate to the diameter? And again, hopefully they will see that this is not just random, that there's a formula at work here. So that's the idea that I would say behind collecting data, is have students collect data, whether it is real life measurements or surveys or public data sets or probes and sensors, and then let them look for patterns, let them make predictions. And I would say use things like graphs and charts. So absolutely go ahead and create charts, or use formulas to look for the connections between those. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to take another look over. It doesn't look like we have any more questions in the doc, so that is perfectly fine. Just wanted to make sure we didn't miss out on any of those. Well, guys, I hope that has been helpful for you today to be able to see 5 different ideas for how spreadsheets could be used in school. I hope some of those are something you can turn around and use with your kids. For those that aren't, maybe pick a staff member that would be excited by some of these things and share this with the staff members back in your school. As a reminder, Everything from today's session can be found at tiny.cc/spark243. That is the web page, which now I have lost. That is the web page here where the live video is, which will now become the recorded video. All the resources are available there. The session evaluation, please fill that out when you get a chance for feedback. And there's a link there to the quiz to get your certificate of attendance for that. So again, guys, I just want to thank you all so very much for taking the time out of your busy day. I really appreciate you doing that and learning a little bit about Google Sheets activities for schools. Thanks so much, and we'll look forward to seeing you again in the coming months for more EdTech webinars. Take care.